I don't know if you've thought about fruit stripe gum in years, but the other day I realized something. Almost every kid remembers this gum. Not because it had the longest lasting flavor, because it definitely didn't. You'd unwrap a fresh stick, take that first bite, and before you knew it, the flavor was already gone. And somehow, that never stopped us from buying another pack. So how does a piece of gum that millions of kids grew up chewing survive for more than 50 years, only to suddenly disappear from store shelves? Let's find out. To answer that question, we actually have to go all the way back to 1969. That's the year fruit stripe gum first hit store shelves, and it was created by the Beech-Nut Company. At the time, the gum aisle looked completely different than it does today. Most brands focused on simple mint flavors with plain-looking packaging. Companies like Wrigley's dominated the shelves, and there really wasn't anything designed specifically to grab a kid's attention. Beech-Nut saw an opportunity. Instead of creating another ordinary pack of gum, they wanted to make something that kids would notice the second they walked down the candy aisle. The idea wasn't just to sell gum. It was to create an experience, something colorful, something fun, something completely different from everything sitting next to it. And that's exactly what they did. When fruit stripe gum launched, it didn't look like any other gum in America. The package exploded with bright rainbow colors. Every stick of gum had colorful zebra stripes printed across it. Even before you took your first bite, it felt exciting just opening the pack. But the real star of the brand wasn't the gum itself. It was the mascot. His name was Yipes the zebra, and he quickly became one of the most recognizable mascots in the candy aisle. His colorful stripes matched the gum perfectly, and he gave the brand a personality that kids instantly connected with, because Yipes stood out from every other package on the shelf. It was a marketing strategy that worked incredibly well. Think about some of the biggest mascots of all time. Tony the Tiger, Toucan Sam, the Kool-Aid Man, the Trix Rabbit. Those characters became just as famous as the products they were selling. And Fruit Stripe had its own unforgettable mascot with Yipes. But the colorful packaging and zebra mascot were only part of the reason kids loved fruit stripe gum. Because once you opened the pack, there was another surprise waiting inside that made it feel unlike almost any other gum on the market. Every pack came with temporary tattoos. And it might not sound like a big deal today, but back then it was genius. You didn't just get a pack of gum, you were getting a little bonus every single purchase. Opening the fruit stripe gum wasn't just about grabbing a stick to chew and enjoy. The first thing you wanted to see was which tattoo you got. You'd put it on your arm at school, show your friends, trade them, or see who got the coolest one. It turned a simple pack of gum into something that felt like a tiny surprise every time. They had flavor, but only for about 15 seconds. For those first few seconds, it was amazing. Sweet, fruity, and unlike anything else on the shelf. But then, almost as quickly as it started, it was gone. The flavor disappeared so fast that it became another one of the reasons it became popular. Everybody joked that the wrapper lasted longer than the gum. Others said you only got about 3 good chews before all the flavor disappeared. And honestly, they weren't completely wrong. What's funny is, everybody knew this. Kids knew it. Parents knew it. The company definitely knew it. Yet none of that seemed to matter. People kept buying it anyway. That says a lot about how successful fruit stripe gum really was. It was competing because it created an experience people remembered. The bright colors, the zebra, the tattoos, the commercials, the excitement of opening a brand new pack, and everything comes falling out of the wrapper. Throughout the 1970s, the 1980s, and well into the 1990s, fruit stripe gum became a lunchbox staple across America. You could find it almost everywhere: grocery stores, gas stations, convenience stores, drugstores, and especially those checkout lanes where kids would beg their parents to throw one more thing into the cart before leaving. For just a few cents, fruit stripe gum was always an easy yes from mom or dad because it was so affordable. And for that reason alone, they sold millions of packs per year. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, fruit stripe gum had become something almost every kid recognized. Even if you weren't a regular gum enjoyer, you still knew the zebra, Yipes. You still remembered the rainbow-colored wrappers, and you definitely remembered how fast the flavor disappeared. It had become more than just a pack of gum. It had become a childhood memory. But while kids were still enjoying fruit stripe gum, something much bigger was starting to happen behind the scenes. The entire gum industry was beginning to evolve. And unfortunately for the company, it wasn't changing with it. That would eventually become the biggest problem fruit stripe gum has ever faced. As the years went on, the gum industry started to change. More and more people were looking for sugar-free gum that lasted longer, freshened your breath, and could be chewed throughout the day. Brands like Extra, Orbit, Trident, and 5-Gum began taking over store shelves. They weren't being marketed as a quick treat anymore. They were being marketed as an everyday product. Unfortunately, fruit stripe gum never really adapted. It stayed almost exactly the way people remembered it. The same colorful wrappers, the same zebra mascot, the same temporary tattoos, and yes, the same flavor that disappeared almost as quickly as it started. That's one reason it became harder to compete with newer brands that offered longer-lasting flavor, sugar-free options, and peppermint flavors. As shopping habits changed, fewer people were reaching for Fruit Stripe gum. The company behind the brand changed over the years as well. Fruit Stripe gum started with Beech Nut in 1969, but ownership eventually changed hands several times before ending up under Ferrara, one of the largest candy companies in the United States. For years, Fruit Stripe quietly stayed on store shelves. It wasn't the biggest selling gum anymore, but it had built a loyal fan base that kept coming back simply because it reminded them of their childhood. Then, in early 2024, everything changed. Ferrara officially announced that Fruit Stripe gum was being discontinued after more than 50 years. There wasn't even much warning. One day, people started noticing the shelves were empty, and before long, Ferrara confirmed that production had officially come to an end. For a lot of people, it came as a complete surprise. Social media quickly filled with posts from people saying they couldn't believe it was gone. Some shared old photos of the gum. Others talked about the tattoos, the zebra, and of course, the famous 10-second flavor. Almost overnight, unopened packs became collectibles. People started listing them online for far more than they originally cost. What used to be a pack of gum you could grab at the checkout counter suddenly became a piece of nostalgia that people wanted to hold on to. And that's when many people realized something. Fruit Stripe gum was never really about having the best flavor. It was about remembering what it felt like to be a kid. That's something no other brand could ever replace. Looking back, it's kind of amazing that a piece of gum with a flavor that barely lasted 15 seconds managed to stick around for more than 50 years. On paper, it probably shouldn't have worked, but Fruit Stripe gum was never just about chewing gum. It was about the bright colors, the zebra mascot, the temporary tattoos, and most importantly, the nostalgia that came with it. It reminded people of being a kid, riding in the backseat of your parents' car, opening a brand new pack to see which tattoo you got, trading them with your friends at school, or begging your mom or dad for one more thing at the checkout line. Those are the memories people still talk about today. And maybe that's why so many people were disappointed when they heard it was gone. Not because they were chewing Fruit Stripe gum every day, but because it felt like another small piece of childhood had disappeared with it. The good news is, even though Fruit Stripe gum is no longer being made, the memories aren't going anywhere. Old commercials are still online, vintage packs are still being collected, and every kid from the 60s to early 2000s definitely tried a piece before. When was the last time you remember chewing a piece of Fruit Stripe gum? And what's another forgotten snack, candy, or place from your childhood that you'd like to see us cover next? If this video brought back some memories, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to BackThen-Central, and I'll see you in the next one.